Hello folks, this is a short video, part of our environmental systems module. What I'd like to do is introduce you to a range of ecosystems. Here is one. We're going to look at upland grassland of the Hellenic mainland, and the national adjective Hellenic refers to anything to do with Greece. Okay. So we're not on the islands, we're on the mainland, and we're going to be up around 500 meters. So in the upland grassland, specifically the area we're in is the region of Epirus and near the city of Ioannina, and we're about 500 meters above sea level. We're just kind of, the area we're at here is southwest of the city. And there's some hills surrounding the city, but beyond the hills then you have quite considerable mountain ranges. So they have a huge effect in driving the weather. Beyond the mountains then is Albania to the northwest, and the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia to the northeast. It's very dry in summer. But you do get, and I experienced these, very heavy cloudbursts with thunderstorms. And then in winter, they can have a lot of snow. And so much so that the snowfall, could be of several feet. So where is Ioannina? As I said, it's in the northwest of Greece, and it's near the Albanian border, which in the map here is that black line to the northwest there. The offshore island you see there, we call it Corfu. In Greek it's Kikere. Ioannina lies close to the E90, the main motorway that runs from Ioannina all the way to Thessaloniki and then on to Constantinople. Typical scene here: scrub bushes, tamarisks for example, which are kind of coarse and thorny. You also, in this region, we get ash trees, which is Latin name is fraxinus. You get various sorts of oak as well, but out in the open, we see a kind of a scrubland like this. Tall herbs with you can see the yellow flowers there. That's fennel, which is kind of a universal herb around the Mediterranean region, and Thapsia, which is also an Umbelliferae and can grow quite substantial. The grassland itself is various species of wild barleys, and sterile oats is very common. So we'll see some typical plant life at grassland at the Hellenic mainland in June, and I took all the photographs. So each slide we're going to just give the family name in Latin, and then have a look at the plant. And where I'm particularly interested is the folk botanical or ethnobotany of various uses, either commercial or in the home or herbal. So the Asteraceae used to be called the Compositae, and that's all of the daisy and dandelion type flowers. And here we have chicory, which is a very pleasant plant, lovely colour, and it grows in large drifts, and there's a couple of species. One is spiny and the other isn't, and the dried roots are used as a substitute for coffee. So you used to be able to get bottles of camp coffee, and camp coffee had a lot of chicory in it. Same family, and we've got this guy. This is the clockhead. So all of the things there you see are the fruits attached to the original flower stalk. It had a small flower, something like a dandelion, and the flower closes around noon, hence the name Jack Go to Bed at Noon. We see very large clock, would be more than 3 times the size of the flower, so that would be kind of unusual. And it does occur in this country, but it's more occasional. It's much more common in Greece. Now, a species of crepus, which is like a thistle, a soft thistle, but it isn't actually a thistle at all. And you do get species of crepus in Ireland, but they do tend to be yellow. Another kind of dandelion-looking flower could be a tall plant. You can see in here is one flower, but a number of buds, so it hadn't fully opened. Not too sure of the species here, but that's fair enough because it is a tricky group, and there's about 70 species in Europe alone, and quite tricky to work out which species it is. Okay, we have a type of thistle, either Cirsium or Carduus. Cirsium is well represented in Ireland. In Carduus, though, you tend to find in gardens Scotch thistle. People grow it actually specifically. It's a very common group. Now we're into a different family, the Cruciferae, and these are the would you say the cabbage family, and all flowers have 4 petals and in the form of a cross, hence crucifer. However, what we're looking at here is not the flowers but the fruits, and they haven't fully matured and dried out yet. And we have a Satsis tinctoria, and that's woad. And we see on the right hand side also we got a barley plant. During the Middle Ages, widely cultivated, production of indigotine. And woad was, in ancient times, it was supposed to be the blue dye that the Picts, Celtic people in Scotland, were supposed to have painted themselves before going to war with the Romans. I've only one representation of an orchid. Orchids are much more widespread, much more diversity in Greece than in Ireland. And here is a spectacular one. This is more than a foot tall, and very large orchid. But you don't get them in Ireland at all. But can be found in some places in Britain. It's very rare there though, and protected. Quite a beautiful plant. And then different family here with the poppy family, Papaveraceae. Dubium meaning dubious. We're not too sure about this one. Is it native? Is it a domesticated plant? Is it introduced everywhere by humans? It's hard to say. Probably originated in Central Asia. Petals have been collected since the 15th century for the red dye. It's sometimes the dye of poppy was put into wine to keep it a bright red colour. But we're very familiar with seeds dusting bread loaf in bakeries. Now we're into the Ranunculaceae, which is the buttercup family, and this is another flower that's grown in gardens in the west but found in the wild in Eastern Europe. Loaf in a mist, or Nigella. Damascena. Damascena, of course, refers to Damascus in Syria, but the plant is native to the Eastern Mediterranean in general. It's you won't see buttercups so much, but you'll see these more, replacing the buttercup. The Scrophulariaceae, of which there are many sorts, but Verbascum is a large group, well represented in Greece. This is, we think, is Verbascum graecum. And Dioscorides states that verbascums are supposed to attract woodworms, and if you put them near figs, they'll stop the figs from rotting. Don't know about those two ideas, but a very spectacular plant can grow, 2 meters tall, and huge profusion of flowers, and produces a huge number of seeds. Now, the Labiatae is the mint family. And here's one. It's the wild clary. Another member I would have seen out in Ioannina would have been Salvia officinalis, which is the garden sage as we would have it, but it's wild in Greece. And this is a type of sage that's very closely related to clary sage. It's just called clary, but clary sage is a different species. And I did find that if you did touch the seeds with wet fingers, that they would feel sticky, so they would. And they were reputedly that you could use the mucilage to clean out the eye. But clary sage was a different species. That would be well known as a muscle relaxant. It's something that for reducing pain and swelling. Okay, so it's more important as a herb than this guy. So little purple flowers, and what we're seeing here is that the flowers have finished now, and the fruiting heads are developing. The Campanulaceae, Campanula family, we really only have one here in Ireland. We call them harebells. In Scotland they call them bluebells, which is confusing. A little bit tricky to kind of tell which species is which. I wrote here that the bracts are distinctive, though some people would say, well, look, if you've got Symphiandra, you'll see that the parts in the centre look slightly different. But what I found is that in Campanula, the flowering, the reproductive parts in the centre of the flower had a large variety of appearance, and it really depends on the age of the flower as well. So it was better to look at the back of the flower. And what you see in Symphiandra is that the bracts are have got notches in them, or teeth, whereas that they're plain pointed ones in Campanula. Oh, kind of one of my favourite families, the Araceae, the arums. This is Biarum. All right, Biarum is an arum that really grows very close to the ground. You can see here it's not on a stalk, and it's not really a flower, but a series of flowers in the base of the plant here. You can see that there's not necessarily any green parts, for photosynthesis, and there probably is a leaf associated somehow. The Latin name is tenuifolium, so it's a tenuous leaf. The large appendage sticking out of it is not a flower, but it's for attracting the flies to it. It smells. It says smells foul, but it really smells of rotting flesh. It's a rather unpleasant smell, actually. The flies enter into the top, and they're trapped beneath. That's to encourage pollination. I need to check whether this would be a carnivorous plant or not. In Ireland we have our lords and ladies, and it's a green plant, so it doesn't actually take any nutrients from the insects that fall into it. There are other arums in Greece, so there's a few of them, and I suppose we may see some of those in a different presentation. This is quite common. It's one of the members of the Euphorbiaceae family, and they're generally known as spurges or spurge, and all the Euphorbias have fleshy stem and leaves, and their key feature is if you were to break a leaf or pull a piece off, you'd get a distinctive white latex would come out from the wound. Be very prominent, and it would run out of it as a liquid. The flowers are interesting. They're usually green or yellow flowers, and very often the flowers are separate male and female flowers. Okay, St. John's wort, Hypericum. Very large group of herbs or shrubs, similar flowers, well known as relief for mental disorders or depression. Tincture of St. John's wort used to be on sale in Ireland, and then it was withdrawn, and it was So it's now you have to have it under prescription because it is quite powerful. What they found is that too much of St. John's wort, or it was correct that it could offer relief from depression up to a certain point, but if you continued to take St. John's wort without care, that it actually could exacerbate your symptoms. So then we have the Dipsacaceae. This kind of looks a little bit like a composite, a daisy-like flower. No. This is a Pterocophilus perennis, found in Albania and Greece only. And in Ireland we do get Scabiosa, which is quite similar, but a small blue head on it. And we grow Campanulaceae species in our gardens. Okay, so many of these plants, if we could grow them in Ireland, would make nice garden plants. And here we have our old friend fennel, which we saw in one of the earlier slides. It's an important herb. We can use the seeds, the stalks, the chopped leaves to make cakes and sweets, and it's used in savoury meals also. Interesting feature of Greek cooking is that they could use kind of what we might think of sweet spices in the cooking. So cinnamon might be used in a meat dish, for example, in Greece. This is a clover. I'm sort of thinking it's a hybrid of white clover. Because it's not fully white. It has the distinctive white mark on the leaves, which is a signature of white clover. But the pink detail means it's not quite there. There are hybrids of white clover which are important agricultural plants and are grown deliberately to improve the fertility in the soil. And then finally one that I haven't actually got the name of yet. It looks like a little composite flower, and the flowers form along long straight stalks, so quite a kind of wiry sort of a plant. But that's interestingly, it was quite common in Ioannina, but again I couldn't find the name of that, so hands up on that one. So the task for you folks is, well, that's a simple presentation, and you just use a template in either PowerPoint or Keynote or some other similar program, and you choose your template and you drop your photographs into the template, and you just add the text to one side. So working in groups, I want you to take photographs from the college grounds, the campus, and then using the presentation program, make a presentation of 5 or so slides, providing a name, which you'll have to do some research, and then a note about it, either its use or anything interesting that you can find out, as was done here. So good luck with that, and goodbye.